Hello everyone, welcome to the channel IS Primers. In this video, we are going to discuss about India's draft Arctic policy, which basically spells out India's interest in the Arctic region, and it prepares a roadmap as to how the government would achieve it. In this particular video, we are going to go beyond the policy framework. We are going to discuss the Arctic issue in entirety so that any question that is framed, specifically mains question that is framed, you are able to attempt it. I have framed 3 questions. At the end of the session, we'll discuss it, and you can submit me your answers on your on my Telegram channel, that is t.me/isprimers, the link for which will be shared in the description box. Now coming to the Arctic region, it is the part of the earth which is north of 66.5° north latitude. So this is the Arctic region, and as you can see, it includes certain Arctic countries, then the Arctic Ocean, and then the icy part that is covering the North Pole. This entire region is basically covered with ice. It has the tundra vegetation. It is also known as the frigid zone, and it has been very difficult for any economic activity or settlement in this part of the world. But recently, what has happened is that the Arctic region is experiencing melting. There is melting of the ice because of the global warming that is taking place. The ice of the Arctic region is receding. We can also use the expression thawing, that is, I'll just spell it out. Thawing, thawing of the Arctic, that is, the Arctic ice is starting to melt. So this draws attention of the world as to what will happen if this icy part of this world is replaced with an ocean. Hence, there is a need for greater study and understanding of the Arctic issue. And so a country like India, which is closer to the equator, has also framed a policy about the Arctic issue and how it is going to affect it. Now, the first and foremost concern about the Arctic region, of the melting of the Arctic, is how it will affect the environment and the climate, not just of their particular region, of the polar region, but also of the world south of it. Now, as you can see, this is a diagram which depicts the planetary wind system. And you can see how the world wind system is interlinked. So you can imagine if anything was to happen in this part of the world, it would influence the weather phenomena to the south also, and this in turn would affect the weather phenomena further south, as they are all interconnected. Now, when we talk specifically about the Arctic region is a very cold environment, therefore, it is known as the high pressure region. High pressure because since it is very cold, the air around it is also cold. So, since it is cold, it tends to subside because of its weight, higher weight, it tends to subside and exerts pressure. And the wind moves from high pressure to low pressure. Now, if this high pressure, because of the warming of the Arctic region, this high pressure, the degree of the high pressure is going to come down, and therefore it is going to affect the wind system further southwards also. And hence, there is a need for greater study as to how the developments of the Arctic is going to influence the weather phenomena to the south. And when we talk about the weather phenomena, let's just consider the case of India. Now, the India's weather system is, one of the most important events of the weather system is the presence of the monsoons, which is very precise and it is depending on the seasonal reversal of the winds. Now, if this planetary wind system was to get affected, it will also affect the monsoonal cycle. We do not know as to what would happen to the monsoonal cycle. Would it lead to more rains, more precipitation, or would it lead to inconsistent timings of the monsoons? And the monsoon timings are very important because it influences the agricultural cycle also. So it will affect the food security of the country. So it's very, very important to understand as to how the events of the Arctic is going to influence the monsoon so that we can have a suitable policy. And not just the monsoons, with the monsoons is also concerned the Himalayan ecosystem, which is also known as the third pole of the world. Now, if the region was, if the Himalayas are actually receiving the precipitation in the form of ice and snow, so the Himalayan region of India is experiencing precipitation. So this ice and snow is very important because it is the supply line of major rivers of India like Yamuna, Brahmaputra, etc. Now, if the precipitation gets affected, then it will naturally affect the livability of the people in the country. There is also a concern that the changes in the weather phenomena and the climatic phenomena may also lead to disasters across, new disasters and natural hazards. Hence, there is a need for greater understanding and clarity of the Arctic region, and India should be greatly involved in this study. Now, coming to the economic significance, the Arctic region, as you can see in this particular diagram, this is the top view of the Earth depicting the Arctic region, and you can see this is the icy part of the Earth. So you can refer here also 2007, the ice cap region in 2007. So this is the icy part which cannot be navigated through the ships. But if this region was to melt into water, this is the ice, it melts, that means this entire region is ocean area, and this region will be more or less accessible for trade and commerce. So new sea routes will emerge. This region will also be beneficial for fisheries sector. The Arctic region in particularly has a rich reservoir of marine stock, so the fisheries sector will benefit as a result. And lastly, but most importantly, this region has a great reservoir of mineral and energy resources. So it is estimated that 22% of mineral and energy resources are stocked in the Arctic region. Now, because of the melting, this region is going to be all the more accessible. And hence, because of all the economic significance, this region is becoming very important, specifically among the Arctic countries. And there is a growing concern that there is going to be a scramble for the Arctic. Scramble. This is derived from an expression that was used earlier in the era where there was scramble for Africa, where the whole of Africa was divided amongst the European countries, and this eventually led to the World War I. So there is a need for having some sort of governance framework which ensures that the region of the Arctic is not exploited indiscriminately, nor there is a situation of war or tensions amongst the Arctic countries, the littoral Arctic countries. Therefore, this is very important, and there is a need for a global partnership, bilateral, multilateral, and India should also engage on this particular issue. So yes, geopolitical tensions have been just been covered. Now the impact on the biodiversity. The Arctic region has about 21,000 known species in the Arctic region. So which are adapted to the Arctic environment or the tundra environment. But many of the species are now finding it very difficult to survive. As you can see the case of the polar bear over here. So polar bear is, it feeds on the seals and the Arctic environment that is there. But because of the melting, we find lot of instances where the polar bears are struggling to survive. So there are a lot of incidents of skinny polar bears, which is a very sad image actually. Then there are many species there is this curious case of the red fox where we see that number of species from the warmer environment are encroaching into the cold Arctic environment, like that of the red fox. So it is encroaching into the environment of the snow fox, and it is eliminating their competition by killing them. Lastly, there are large number of human settlements, indigenous humans of the Arctics, who are going to be disturbed and affected by the melting of the Arctics and encroachment of the economic activities from the south. So there is a need to preserve, to look into the aspect of the disturbance it will have on the humans of the Arctics, the impact on the society, the culture, economic life that needs to be preserved. Now, given here are certain images of the Arctic, I just want to give you an exercise. You can just write down in the comment section as to what do you think would be the nature of the economy of the Arctic people just based on the picture given below. So you can share it with me in the comment section. I'll be glad to respond to it. Now coming to the salient features of the draft policy, the policy starts with the India's Arctic mission, or basically the objectives of the government. So it says that India should should actively contribute to international efforts to enhance humankind's understanding of the Arctic region. In India's capacity as an observer state to the Arctic Council. Now, I've never referred to this before, but Arctic Council is basically an international organization. It's an intergovernmental organization which is concerned with the developments of the Arctic region, and India is not a member of the Arctic Council, but India is a observer state to the Arctic Council, and it got re-elected in 2019. So this you must know for prelims. Secondly, it says that there is a need to enhance sustainable and mutually beneficial cooperation between India and Arctic. Thirdly, there is a need to strengthen efforts against the global warming. Then it says that there is a need for better understanding of the scientific and climate related linkages between the Arctic and the Indian monsoon. Very important. And it also says that there is a need to harmonize polar research with the third pole, that is Himalayas. So basically, whatever we are studying with respect to the Arctics must also keep in mind the Himalayas, which are very similar to the polar region. It's because it's very cold. So it's also known as the third pole. And lastly, there is a need for enhancing the resource base, the scientific resource base of the Arctic within India itself. Now, the 5 pillars of the policy. This draft policy is basically made to meet India's Arctic mission, and this policy rests on 5 pillars. So, the first pillar is science and research activities, which says, from the point of view of science, it says that there is a need to strengthen existing research base. India has already been investing in this research of the Arctics. So it has a research center at Himadri, which is in Norway. So we can actually strengthen what we already have. And then we already know certain things. We have certain expertise, be it from the study of the Himalayas, or be it the Arctic, Himadri, or the Antarctic. We have certain expertise, and we need to harness that or utilize that. Second is about climate change and environment. So steps must be taken for better understanding about the Arctic biodiversity and try to minimize the impact of the depletion of the Arctic ice on the Arctic biodiversity. Secondly, it suggests in environmental management in the Arctic. That is, maybe environmental management means controlling issues which cause global warming, such as methane emissions, checking methane emissions, then the plastic waste, the microplastic waste that is deposited in the Arctics, to keep a check on it to reduce that. So environmental management. In fact, a related word to it would be geoengineering or climate engineering. So that also you can mention here. Third is Earth system modeling. Now we all know that Arctic is affecting the Arctic may influence the weather phenomena of the Earth. Therefore, in light of this new development, we need to remodel the weather phenomena of the Earth so we can better predict the weather events and natural disasters, possible natural disasters. Thirdly, we need to utilize the space technology. We already have a space prowess, so we need to utilize a space technology with respect to the Arctic region. Now, it could be by means of maybe remote sensing capability, remote sensing satellites. Remote sensing satellites are basically those satellites which observe, which see. So we can actually map out the developments of the Arctic, maybe the melting of the Arctic. We can map it out. We can map out the exploration activities or the possible resources lying underneath the surface of the Earth. So that can be predicted by the space technology. So we need to develop that further. In fact, we already have a satellite for this purpose, which is known as Resource Sat. So we already have something. Further, the space technology can be utilized for establishing certain services in the Arctic. Now, since Arctic people are going to be more and more engaged in the economic activities, so we can work on providing telecom services, establishing telecom over there, or navigation satellites for maritime safety, or hydrographic service, etc. So all of this can be factored in. Now, the second pillar is economic and human development cooperation. So, the first thing is energy, mineral, and other resources. So, all the mineral resources, like the Arctic is, estimated that 22% of the energy resources are in the Arctic. So, there is a need for responsible exploration. Responsible exploration means an exploration activity keeping in mind the local ecology and the climate of the Arctic region. So, factoring in all those things. So, exploration must take place, and in that, Indian entities should be promoted, like India's public sector companies like ONGC, etc., or private sector like Reliance. So, those companies should also get a stake in the exploration and exploitation of the energy resources that are available in the Arctic region, because that is how we will get the benefit of those developments. Next is human development. Human development means the first thing is that we know, there are certain indigenous communities that are already living in the Arctic, like I had covered earlier. So we as Indians, we have certain expertise of the indigenous communities. We have certain governance frameworks for it. For example, the Himalayan community, the Himalayan tribes, etc. So we have certain idea about it. So we can share our expertise in management of indigenous communities when it comes to the Arctics. Secondly, it proposes the policy that there is a need to promote sustainable tourism. The Arctic region, the North Pole, needs to be approachable for tourism purposes also, so that economic activity enhances. And thirdly, it says that there should be cultural and educational exchanges, especially amongst the indigenous communities like that of the India and the Arctic people. Third is about the transport and connectivity. Like I had just said earlier, if the Arctic starts to melt, new sea routes will emerge. Now, what India could do is, India has already proposed a new transport corridor which is known as the International North-South Transport Corridor, as you can see here. So, India is trying to connect. So, India is trying to connect to Iran, and then it is going to Russia. So, from here on, it can be linked to the unified deep water system that is created by the Russia, and this can be further extended to the Arctic region. Unified deep water system, as mentioned over here, it is basically a system of inland water navigation that is created by Russia. So linking of the north-south trade corridor to unified deep water system and further extension to the Arctic. Further, now if Indians are going to invest in the Arctic region, we are going to need special kind of ships that specialize in the icy environment. So we need expertise in building ice class vessels. Now Russia, for instance, has an expertise in that, and we can collaborate on that. Thirdly, it says there is a need to work on environmental monitoring, collecting hydrographic and oceanographic data, and creation of maritime safety facilities. So all of this is required for the transport and connectivity to the Arctic. Then it is about the governance and the international cooperation. Like I said before, the first point, it says to uphold international law and in particular UNCLOS. So this first point is basically referring to the scramble of the scramble of the Arctic that I said. All the countries that are neighboring the Arctic region are going to compete for more and more portion of the Arctic region, and therefore this has to be done in line with the established international law, in particularly the UNCLOS. UNCLOS basically specifies which part of a country is its national territory, especially when it comes to the sea, and which part of it is exclusive economic zone. For instance, this is India, right? So Indian coast. So it defines, okay, fine, 20 kilometers, 20 nautical miles is India's national territories where the military and other things can be present, and then 200 nautical miles would be India's exclusive economic zone. So this is defined by the UNCLOS. So likewise, the UNCLOS framework and existing international law should be available for the Arctic region. So that principles need to be adhered to. Secondly, any development that takes place, economic development or sharing of the boundaries, whatever takes place, should be done with the view of the sustainable developmental goals that were created by the United Nations. So SDG 2030 framework. So it's a list of targets that the United Nations have framed, and the same should be applicable when it comes to the Arctic region. Thirdly, India should actively participate in international climate change and environmental treaty frameworks specific to Arctic. So I'll just list out some treaties here. For example, some treaties are Arctic Contaminants Action Program. Then there is Arctic Migratory Birds Initiative. So all of these, there are certain initiatives that are there, so that needs to be explored, and India should work in that direction. And lastly, India should invest in building its own capacity when it comes to Arctic related scientific research, Arctic related programs for mineral oil and gas exploration, or expanding the student programs on the blue bioeconomy of the Arctic, or build a wide-ranging institutional base on Arctic maritime, legal, environmental and governance issues. So this is all that we had on the policy part, and most of the policies that just covered the salient features, that is from the PIB. So yes, so this is all we have, and now coming to the questions. So I have framed some 3 questions for you, 250 words, that is 15 mark questions. This is based on the UPSC past year questions, so I have framed some new questions, expecting that Arctic policy is going to be very important for civil services. So do try to attempt it and share with me your insights on these topics on my Telegram channel, that is t.me/isprimers, the link for which will be in the description box. Thank you for your time and all the best for UPSC Civil Services. Thank you.